All right, welcome back to another episode of Real Talk with your boy Vernard James. I'm Vernard James. This is a podcast where we just talk about real stuff, know what I mean? Real things in life. So today I'm here with my homeboy, my brother from another mother,
You.
Chevaan Ellis. We grew up together in Allentown. We played ball together, all that. And so, yeah, what's up, man? What's going on?
What's going on, bro?
So the reason I wanted to do this, specifically with you, is because obviously, like I said, we grew up together in the same town. But not only that, we kind of had similar upbringings. Um, we both were really engulfed in basketball for a large portion of our lives.
Yes, sir.
Along with another friend of ours who isn't here, Jesus. Shout out to my boy. Um, but like we spent days upon days upon days upon days working out, playing basketball, all that. And we really had like heavy ambitions. We had both played for teams, the school
Mm-hmm.
teams and whatever. Um, and so today, what I want to talk about is athletics and the effect that it has on people in the hood. Now we were born and raised in Allentown. Allentown isn't it's not Brooklyn, like it's not Compton, but like there's still a lot of hood activity that goes on, you know what I mean? Like there's still a lot of crime, a lot of gang activity, a lot of that stuff. And I would say that we were both kind of around that, but like we never really got engulfed in it. Um, and there's also a lot of other people that we knew, like growing up, who kind of had similar things and played a lot of basketball to stay away from that. But then some who didn't, like, and kind of still got engulfed in like gang activity and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So
man.
that was another reason I wanted to talk to you specifically about this. I think it has a large effect on people in the hood that the people outside of the hood don't realize. Um, and the other reason is because currently, you and I both work with students. Obviously, not in the same way. Uh,
Mhm.
can you tell us what you do?
So, I'm currently a high school strength and conditioning coach. So, I work with high school athletes, sometimes middle school too. Just work training them in the weight room or doing stuff on the field, anything like that.
Right. And then I'm a youth leader. For those who don't know, I work at a church, run a youth group, that kind of thing. So I'm working directly with students too. Just being with them, growing with them, playing games, and learn about God and all that fun stuff. And just being really just engulfed in their lives. So, um, yeah, that was another reason. But first, I wanted to, sheesh, if we could, let's talk about kind of growing up and
Okay.
the effect basketball had on our lives. So, you want me to start?
Oh, yeah. I'll
Yeah.
go for you.
Okay. So I mean, I think for me it was really around like seventh grade. That something just like a switch got flipped. Like I liked basketball before that, but I didn't really care that much.
Hmm.
But I just feel like there was a point where every like boy in middle school who was somewhat athletic and like wanted to beat somebody was like, yo, basketball, like ball is life. Like, yo, let's go to the open gyms, let's try for the team, let's try and do all that.
Can I add something to that?
Yeah, yeah.
So, I also feel like that was kind of inspired by being at the school we were at.
Yeah.
So I feel like at the time there were a lot of kids that were like really good at basketball.
Yeah,
So
that's
that kind
true.
of shifted us that way too.
That is very true. Yeah, I think when we were in seventh grade, the team that was above us was like, yeah, just stacked, and everybody liked them, and everybody knew them, and that kind of thing. Um, so yeah, we just like fell into it. I think there was time that we had spent before that, just kind of like at the park, whatever, playing around.
Hmm.
We were always like active and athletic, but like it took a hard switch to just basketball. And I remember like so there's a court that's about 5 minutes from the both of us, and Jesus, our other friend, and we would just be there every day, just shooting, playing 50, playing 21, playing pickup with random dudes from the area, stuff like that. But like we was really like driven, man. And at the end of the day, we were like, yo, we gotta make the team. Like we gotta do all that stuff. I didn't play till eighth grade. I don't remember. Was it the same for you?
Yeah, we all.
Yeah, yeah, we all played in eighth grade. And I remember it was like a big thing because we had gone from not really having any skill at all to being like decent. But yeah, like I don't know. Everything that I cared about was like basketball related.
Literally.
Like I consumed so much like of the NBA content, like more than I ever had before. Not just like what was happening at the time, but like you know the history, like the history of the NBA. And I learned so much about all these different players and stuff. Like I had a book called How to Be Like Mike.
I remember you talking about that.
Yeah, it's a good book. I gotta reread that. But yeah, just like so many different things that I don't know. For me, like that was a huge source of ambition. Just growing up, like I had ideas of what I wanted to do with my future. Like I wasn't subscribed to film at that point. So for me, like I was just like, yo, like I'm trying to make it all the way. Like I'm trying to play D1. Like I'm trying to play NBA. Like all that. Well, so yeah. I mean, could you speak about it from your perspective?
So, thinking back to middle school, so I remember in 7th grade. That was when we. Did you join DYC too?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
7th grade, we decided to join like a local, I guess, city league team.
Yeah.
And we were just garbage.
Yo.
It was so bad.
Yeah.
Like everyone on that team was good, some crazy athletes for that age, and we were just dog.
Yeah.
And I just remember we run so much in practice, and after the season ended, I was like, I don't want to feel like that ever again.
Yeah.
And so I feel like after that, that was when we decided to just
get serious,
work all summer.
Yeah.
Like every day, all day.
Yeah.
And going from like no skills, we got like good pretty fast.
Yeah.
And for us, that felt like a big accomplishment considering how good our team was at the time. Like being able to make the team, going from nothing to that was
Facts.
crazy.
Facts. That's true. And then the next year, even like, because we went to different high schools. I went to Allen, which like had a pretty elite team, and like they had gone to like states and stuff like that. One of my teammates just the other day, former teammates, got drafted to the NBA. Like there have been some real deal players there, and so like Allen at one point like seemed like a fever dream. Like it just seemed like something that was so out of reach. But then it was just like we went from having no skill to then the next year. I remember for a short time I started on the Allen basketball team and on the freshman team. It didn't last long because I couldn't hang. But I just remember being like, yo, the jump that we've made like in such a small amount of time. Like I really felt like, yo, like nah, like this is for real. Like I'm making waves, and if I continue to push myself, I can. Everything else was secondary. Like I didn't care about girls as much. I didn't care about school as much. I didn't care about like anything. I didn't really have much of a social life. Like I went to church and everything, and so I had a life there. But like other than that, it was basketball, and even that came second to basketball. Yeah, I don't know. Like, and it changed me. Like the kind of clothes I wore, the kind of things that I like talked about because of what other teammates were talking about, like what I ate, everything. Like it truly was my identity for a long time. And I think a big part of it was because it was just built off of this, like, yeah, I don't think I can really do this, do you? Like, and just trying to prove people wrong, you know? And so that was part of it. But I know for people around us who were already kind of ahead of us, what I noticed at least was a lot of it, it seemed to come natural for them. I guess maybe if they just started at the right time or they had enough people around them, maybe they were just natural talent. But like, I feel like we had to work to get to the level that some people were just already at. And so.
Just playing from when they're really young.
Yeah. And so with that, like, they had this confidence that I could never really achieve. And I think because of that, I never went as far. But with that confidence that they also had, I noticed that a lot of athletes, student athletes, just didn't like care past a certain point. Um,
Yes, sir.
like I don't know about you because at a certain point we stopped going to the same school, but like I was in the gym, like I was lifting weights, I was trying to like get bigger. Like I remember there's one year where I was like a stick, and the next and they had me playing a big man position for some reason, because I was taller, I guess. And I just remember getting bullied by this one kid, and he was talking about me on the bench, and I was like, nah.
Dang.
I was like, nah, this ain't never gonna happen again. So the next year, I put on mad weight. We was in the Y, we was in the YMCA
Bro,
like
old
every
school.
day. Yo, oh my god, there's a dude named Old School who used to like train us just cause he was a cool dude, and yeah, that like stuff like that just really like pushed me, and I got bigger and everything like that. But then other people weren't like that. Like my teammates who were so naturally gifted, they play basketball a lot, but like lifting, having like specific regimes, like even just training wise, a lot of it was just playing a lot of pickup. And granted, like I think that is important. Like people say, like yeah, you need to do shooting drills, you need to do all that.
Mhm.
Yes, absolutely, but you need to be able to like put it in the game mode too. And so they were playing for mad leagues and whatever. So they had a lot of game time experience, which is what I didn't have. Um,
True.
but at the same time, I still feel like I worked hard, you know? Um, so I guess where I'm going with that is like after the fact, it feels like because for a lot of my teammates, a lot of my peers, because sports were like their identity and because they were already good at it, they just had little development in other places in life, you know?
I can see that.
And it's made a difference. Like even now, they like a lot of my friends are still looking for direction in their life, even though we're like 25 years old now. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of that stemmed from like, oh, you're good at this sport, so like you don't need to be good at anything else. You know?
Yeah, I actually see that a lot now with some of the athletes I work with,
Really?
especially in sports like basketball and I guess like baseball, for example, stuff like that. I've seen a lot of times where a kid will be really good and they'll have a whole bunch of people, coaches, parents telling them just stick with this sport.
Mm-hmm.
Like don't worry about anything else. Just get better. You know,
Yeah.
maybe you'll be able to play in college, something like that.
Yeah.
And so there's this hyper focus on just constantly playing the sport, not even working on skills, not even doing anything else outside, just playing,
Yeah.
getting on teams, and just exhausting themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. Um, two of the students that I have now in my youth group, um, one just finished middle school and is going to play at Liberty High School.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Um, I assume. But he, bro, like, so for one thing, he grew like a foot, like literally, like he had a crazy growth spurt, and he's like taller than me now. He's like 6'2", and so all he does is play basketball. He plays for like three different leagues. Mind you, he's in eighth grade. Like half the time, he doesn't even show up to the youth group because he's just playing ball somewhere, um, and he's so engulfed in it. And part of me, I'm like, I was there, like, and I'm like, yo, he's doing the right thing. Like, if basketball is really his thing, but at the same time, I'm like, what if he doesn't? You know, like, what if he doesn't really pop off? Like, you
Yeah.
really have to like stand out. When I was in high school, I just like the amount of craziness that I saw, the crazy dedication to student athletes. Um, so like for one thing, they had these mentor people, who were just people from the community who were really just like close to the program or whatever, and they would literally like take certain athletes out. Like if you really had promised, they would take them out. They would like buy them food. They would buy stuff for them, take care of their families, all this stuff. Like
Sheesh.
kids didn't have to do their homework. Like they
Really?
were like tutored like closely, and yeah, like there was no real accountability. I remember like one of the standout things about our school, like high school, the principal was not like the person who had the most power. It was the basketball coach. Literally, like he's like a local celebrity, Doug Snyder. And so whenever people were acting up, whether or not they played, teachers would be like, "I'm gonna go tell the coach Snyder like how you acted, and we'll see about you playing this year." And people would get straight so quick, like, "I like, let me get my
Really?
stuff together." Yeah, like it was crazy. Like, and some kids figured that out, but they also figured out that if they were good and good past a certain point, even the coach would kind of bend to their will.
Hmm.
Like there were some players who were really like really talented, but just no direction whatsoever. All they wanted to do was smoke weed and like sleep with girls and stuff. Um, and the coach just wanted them to play,
Yeah.
you know. And they'd just be like, I don't really feel like it, you know. So they'd like skip practices. They'd like come late. They would disrespect the coach to his face. And like then behind closed doors, you hear like the coach is kind of just like kissing their ass, like, you know what I mean?
I hate that.
Like, hey man, like I know you're probably going through a tough time and everything like that. So like, why don't you just reconsider playing and everything? And yeah, like it's crazy. Do you see that now? Like as a trainer, I know you're not like
Hmm.
directly on a coaching staff, but do you see that?
Yeah, I see it all the time. Um, like I said, I feel like it depends more on the sport, but some coaches I feel like just focus on strictly athletics. They don't think of developing these student athletes as a whole. So, like, sure, they might be good at their sport, but they don't know how to interact with like an adult, for example,
Mm-hmm.
or they don't know how to be accountable for their actions,
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. So that's the part that gets me now. Um, so just being able to instill life lessons through their sports, I feel like a lot of coaches miss that part. They
Mm-hmm.
just strictly focus on W's and L's.
Mm. Yeah, that's interesting. Like the best coach by far that I've ever had was my freshman year coach.
Really,
Yeah. Um, he was part of the program at Allen.
is he the big dude? Like
No,
like bulky?
he wasn't really bulky. He was mad short, um, and kind of like reserved until like you talk to him, and then you hear it like very strongly opinionated. So my team, like my year, we were nearly undefeated our freshman year. We were like 21-2.
I remember that.
We were just like rolling over teams. Like it was crazy. Like I felt like we was a dream team, like for real. And and that was so much because of our coach. Like he did not he was not about the bull. Like he was not about kissing players. He was not like just a W's and L's guy. Like he was the kind of guy who was trying to instill life lessons. He was the kind of guy who was like, yo, like listen, there's more to life than basketball.
Hmm.
And I respected that so much. I always said like, yo, he could easily be the head coach here, but it just wouldn't happen because he doesn't have the, I guess, celebrity qualities. And that's no disrespect to Doug Snyder because Doug Snyder's a great guy,
Yeah.
and he does a lot for Allentown just in general. But like, I just remember thinking that this coach that we had was so different, like from everyone else in the program, and he didn't last. Like he ended up like just leaving the program and going and focusing on. He's like the dean of students now or something like that, or he was
Really.
for a long time, and so he was just working directly with kids. And the cool thing was like then he had like spent so much time talking to spoiled athletes that he knew like how to talk to them and everything like
Hmm.
that. Like he knew how to talk to troubled kids and whatnot. Um, but yeah, I think that's key what you're saying.
So going back to how you feel like playing basketball kind of shaped our um, positions growing up.
Yeah.
Something interesting I've noticed was that at a certain point, I didn't really play to get anywhere, I guess you could say. I kind of played because I had nothing else to do. So, how you mentioned before, how you noticed like some kids who were really good with no direction started drifting towards other stuff. And I felt like I played basketball to not do that.
Mm-hmm.
And so being around, meeting all the different kind of people we have just by playing at random parks kind of opened my eyes to that.
Mm-hmm.
Especially some of the older guys that would tell us, don't be like us, pretty much.
Yeah.
That happened a lot.
Yeah.
Like, just focus on basketball and worry about school.
Facts.
Just don't be like us.
Facts.
I think that was a big part of that. And that also, seeing those guys also kind of gave me like a sense of, kind of like a sense of belonging.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like over the time we spent playing, I felt confident enough to pretty much go anywhere around the city where normally some people might not want to go to.
True.
But you feel like you know like a lot of people at this point. Just
That's true.
ball.
That's big facts.
Right?
Yeah. I the amount of people, because I still like am an avid basketball player. I just love it. And playing at the gym, the amount of people I interact with there, I don't even know their names. But like every time you see them, like you dap them up, like, yo, what's going on, bro?
Yeah.
Like, and then if you see them in public, it's the same thing. Like, what's good, bro? Like, there's like repertoire. There's this community that exists because of basketball, especially in the city of Allentown.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. Yeah, I feel that, man. Like we used to play with some dangerous folks.
I didn't know. I was oblivious.
I wouldn't find out. Yeah, a lot of times I wouldn't find out until after the fact. But like, yeah, this one time I'll never forget. I was playing at this one park with Bryson, one of my teammates, and these dudes rolled up in this blue car, came out wearing all blue, and we played ball for a minute, and it was like actually kind of like competitive or whatever. And I just remember stepping on the one dude's shoe. And he had nice blue shoes on. I was like, oh, my bad, dog. He was like, yo, don't even worry about it, bro. We playing basketball. And then, like, afterwards, we finished up, and they were like, yo, we about to go hit another park. You trying to come? Like, we'll take you there. And I was like, nah, I got to go. My friend Bryson went. And then I seen him at school the next week. And he's like, bro. He was like, you realize we was playing with, like, an OG? Like, some, like, crip, like, a crip, like. And I was like, he did have a teardrop, didn't he? And I stepped on his shoe. I tell people that story all the time. I stepped on a man's shoe who's probably killed people. Like, but it was because of basketball. It was just like there was this mutual respect that nothing else mattered in that moment. Like people take basketball seriously, even when, yeah, kind of like you're saying, even when there's not like a future in it for them. I played in an adult league, which I was always like, I hope I never become one of those dudes. I did. And it was so competitive. It was so competitive.
For no reason.
Yeah, but it's like, for some people, this is all they have. I talked about it on an earlier episode with my one friend about how there's just so much conflict that can stir up because of basketball. Like, dudes will be ready to fight over, like, plays and stuff like that. And it's always so interesting seeing how engulfed people get. But then I'm like, for people, like, especially around here, like, that's literally all they have. Like, they have their basketball skills, and so they have nothing to look forward to. You know, they're just working some job. Maybe they just have, like, bills and stuff they have to take care of. And so basketball is, like, their one, like, release. And so a lot of dudes will come, like, ready to play and will be upset if things don't go their way. Like, it's crazy, man. Grown men, like, throwing fits over calls and stuff like that. And I'm always thinking about, like, bro, this is pickup. But then, like, it's culture for them, you know? That's always an interesting thing.
Oh, that reminds me of this one time when we were playing at the parked down the street, and we had our friend Justin come.
Oh,
Yeah, and I guess he like fouled this dude that we were playing with, and the guy he was getting mad serious. Like, he was actually really mad that he kept getting fouled.
yeah.
And he was trying to fight our friend, and like we all had to shut it down quick.
Mm-hmm.
We're just saying,
how serious people get.
yeah,
Like, especially like it's a contact sport. Like, you're gonna get hit, especially if you're like bigger. Like, it's just naturally gonna happen because you can't. Like, there are no offensive fouls in pickup. Like, not really, unless it's egregious. And so, like, yeah, if you're bigger, you're gonna get hit. But yeah, dudes be getting mad, like. Yeah, because it's like tied to their identity. It's like a part of your pride.
it's crazy.
It is. But like, I don't know. That was never me. You know.
Yeah, same.
Like, I did always want to get somewhere, but I think for me, part of it for a long time was like I felt like I needed to think differently than everyone else.
What do you mean?
Like, I don't know. Like, going into basketball, I was always like, I want to be mentally tough, you know. And so for part of that for me, it looked like I don't talk trash. Like, I'm not a trash talker.
Mm-hmm.
Never really have been. But part of that is because I want to torch you with my game and then have you upset that I'm not even talking trash to you.
Yeah.
You know, like that is my favorite thing when I'm like cooking somebody and they're talking trash to me and I'm silent and I'm still frying them and they're just like trying to.
That's the best.
Yeah, like that was kind of my mindset just with everything. Like, I'm never gonna be the guy who gets like way too uppity. Like, I'm always gonna be calm, cool, and collected if I can. Yeah, because it just, I don't know. I wanted to have an edge on everybody. And that was my thing. Because, like, I wasn't the most athletic. You know, I didn't shoot the best or anything. So I wanted to have this mental toughness that was unmatched. But
I feel that.
yeah. So I feel like, but that's part of why I was always just never engulfed in conflict and stuff. Because I would get upset, like, for sure. I would get angry. Now, to play angry and that would suck. And so I was just like, yeah, this isn't going to help. Like, I just need to be mentally tough. And then when I beat people, despite my feelings, it'll feel so much better because I didn't lose my cool, you know?
That's interesting.
And that's something that's never changed for me. Like, to this day, like, when there's conflict, I just walk away. I'm like, man, I don't got time for this. Like, people are arguing over calls and stuff. I'm like, whatever, it's one possession. Like, I'm still going to cook you. Like, that's what I'm saying in my head. Like, I'm not going to say that out loud. But, like, okay, you're called to walk on me. I didn't walk, but it's fine. I'll get it back, and I'm going to hit a 3 in your face. So, like,
I get that.
whatever. Yeah.
I guess I'm kind of the same way. Like, I used to love getting fouled playing.
Yeah.
I don't know why. It's just, I feel like it was
Sign of respect.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
they fouled me. Like,
Yeah.
they really respect
Yep.
my play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When people leaving you open, that's the worst. Oh, yeah, shoot that. Yeah, you know what to do then. Like, you have to make it. Yeah, it's an interesting thing and how it just bleeds into life now. I don't know, like, I don't know if you notice it, like, with our peers, but I think that same attitude that existed from high school sports still exists within them, where, like, they were so used to being the man.
Yeah, when you mention it, now I think about it, it does make sense.
That it just doesn't, like, it doesn't dissipate, despite the fact that they could be, like, so far away from who they were athletically and, you know, just in terms of status and whatnot. Like, one dude I played with, he easily could have gone to the league if he had his emotions in check.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about Talik Williams. If he had his emotions in check, if he had his, like, just behavior in check, because he had the whole city behind him.
Yeah.
When I tell you, like, this man would have an entourage just to come play pickup, like, everybody was rooting for this dude. Because he could jump out the gym. Like, I've never seen somebody with such natural jumping ability. Like, if he would have been more... I'm not, like, trying to gas him, like, for real. Like, if he would have tried to develop more, he could have been, like, a John Morant. Like, in terms of, like, jumping ability, like, it was crazy. Like, he would really two-hand on you off the vert. Like, like just crazy athletic, but again, the skills and everything weren't as sharp because he thrived off of his crazy athleticism, which was driven by his just wild like mindset.
Okay.
Um,
This
and
happens all the time.
yeah, and so I see him now, and he's like the same dude. Like we're years removed from that. He never really made it anywhere because his grades weren't like great or anything, and he went off to college, and people weren't, you know, sucking him like they were in high school, and so he
See,
just kind of fell off. But he's the same dude, and it's just like, yo, you never like. It's like you never grew up.
that sucks.
It is like, I don't know.
Like that goes back to exactly what I was saying before with the coaches not developing their character.
Yeah.
It's like it sucks. I see it happen. So I guess where I've been working hasn't been a big issue that I've noticed. Only with certain people, a few people, but I feel like the environments I were in, there was definitely going in a good direction as far as
Mhm.
developing the students. But overall, at least nationwide, I feel like it's getting worse.
Yeah. I think social media plays a big part in that too.
It's terrible.
I'm thinking about the high school players like Mikey Williams,
Yo,
bruh.
I can't. I mean, I don't know who he is. I don't know him, but I can't stand him just from all the stuff I see.
But you think about it, dude's like barely 18 and is like got hundreds of thousands of people watching his every move.
It's insane.
He hasn't even proven himself. I looked at the actual rankings. So you and I saw Bronny James
Yes, sir.
play against DJ Wagner, who's DJ Wagner's the number one ranked high schooler in the nation, and I see why. I after that we were talking about that and how Bronny's ranked like 40, like he's not even
In his class.
top 20. Yeah. And so I went and looked at the rest. Mikey Williams is like 22. Like he's nowhere. Like there's plenty of players who are way better than him. And it's just, but it's interesting because they'll just latch on to a player, and yeah, it's crazy the amount of attention that these athletes get. You know, like truth be told, I don't even think making it to the NBA is that big of a deal.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I used to. In some ways, depending on where you're from, but like the NBA is so hard. Like I don't think anybody really grasps how hard it is to play and maintain a career in the NBA.
You said you don't think it's a big deal?
I'm saying I don't think it's a big deal to just make it there. To have a
Oh, I see
career,
what you mean. Okay.
to have a career in the NBA, that's a big deal. To
see what
play
you're
for like a couple of years, that's a big deal. But to just get drafted, to a lot of people, like that's enough of a win.
Mhm.
And I'm like, maybe. But the amount of players that get waived and like
Yeah.
go to the G League because they weren't good enough and everything like that, like making it to the NBA is just the beginning. But I feel like there's so many people who are so committed to just that, and then they get there, and
They don't know what to do.
yeah, they just suck. Like, and that's all they know. Like so many players. I'm thinking about like Ben Simmons, who's an incredible athlete. Like whatever you want to say about him, like incredible basketball player, but I think because he's just had that shoved in his face his entire life, and that is his identity, like he doesn't know how to function. He doesn't know how to grow.
I actually saw someone talking about Ben Simmons recently, about how he's basically been the same guy since high school.
Hmm.
Like the same tendencies.
Hmm.
Never, like they go back to his time at LSU, how they felt that he didn't really care for his teammates, and there was some whole thing where he just stopped playing for a little bit.
Hmm.
I don't remember the problem. Same thing happened in high school. And they're saying like he's always been this way, but he's just come this far.
Right. Like, what are you gonna tell him? You know? Yeah. Like he is one of the greatest basketball players in the nation, but it doesn't matter because there are these mental hurdles that he's never overcome. But I see that happening for so many more young players now, who might not even make it to the NBA. Like, look at what's his face, What's that short dude's name? Everybody was on him. His dad started a school. What is
Oh,
it?
Julian Newman.
Julian Newman. Oh my goodness! If there wasn't a more like overhyped athlete in history, like dude has still never played for like a legitimate team or anything.
Is he in college now?
I think so, but like he's not going to the league. You know what I mean? And yet you'd think the way they talk about him that he's like the next sensation. But it's just the attention that comes, like because of social media, because they play in all these leagues and they put it online or whatever, and everybody's like, "Oh, he nice" or whatever. Like, yeah, a lot of people are nice, bro. Like that's there. It takes more than that.
Yeah, that's true. Like it's one thing to be good, but if you don't have that mindset or that mental fortitude that you talked about earlier, you're not gonna get very far.
Yeah.
Um, and that also reminds me of, on the topic of social media, since we were talking about a little bit of our younger days, I think when we were in about middle school, that was when we had the big explosion of basketball mixtapes.
Yo,
Like Ball is
and
Life,
one,
Hoop
or not
Mixtape.
and one. Yeah, Ball is Life. Yeah,
That was crazy.
Hoop mixtape. Yeah,
That's when everything became so accessible, or started to become accessible,
Yep.
with YouTube coming up.
Yep.
And you could actually just see top players right now just play. And
And it's all highlight reels too. Like
Yeah.
it's all just like the flashy kind of stuff.
But we haven't seen that before.
Right.
So that was crazy.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I feel like being able to see that also created this newfound inspiration, I guess.
Mhm.
So we weren't just looking at NBA players like Kobe and LeBron. Now we're kind of looking at people our age.
It's true.
Like, yeah, I might be able to do this too.
Yeah. Yeah. It became more tangible. Like,
Mm-hmm.
but the only thing that always frustrated me about that was like, again, it's a highlight reel. So, like over the course of a game, like if it's a real game and you're playing legitimate competition, it's not just going to be a whole highlight reel of a game. Like there's going to be moments that like the game slows down and there's going to be like a lot of competition. And honestly, a lot of times if you look at the score in some of those highlight reels, like whoever the player is, their team could be getting smoked because there's no actual like basketball being played. It's just like, oh, let me show off how much, like how good I am or whatever. Yeah, that was always really interesting to me. Yeah, Austin Rivers. There was one specifically of him that was just everybody was like, "Yo, this dude is about to be like incredible."
He was that guy.
He was until until he went to college. Like it disappeared. But you see that in high school, and you're like, "Yeah, that's how I'm trying to be," or whatever.
Yep.
But like, yeah, it's interesting. Like even the freak athletes that I grew up around, like the ones who went D1 and played, and some played like semi-professionally or whatever, there's still like a very sizable gap between them and those who are actually professionals.
Oh yeah.
And so the kids who we idolized because they were right in front of us still were just like okay. So like one thing I think is I don't think people took college ball seriously.
You mean players? Or
Yeah.
you mean
Yeah. Personally. Or like the
you're talking about people you know?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I think a lot of them were like, oh, I'll just go to a JUCO, a junior college, and show out there or whatever. You know, there was no strategy, I guess, other than that.
It can be kind of hard depending on where you come from. I feel like the guys that you're talking about haven't had as much exposure to people at least at their level or better than them.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of the times they were that guy, and when you get to college, everyone was that guy.
Exactly.
And then
Exactly.
they get lost.
That was like Talik. Like, you got there jumping out the gym. Still incredible jumping ability, but like,
Yeah, everybody could do that almost.
yeah, and just the other skills that are there that are so underrated, like actual game time mentality, like working in your teammates and stuff like that. Like that stuff doesn't exist, and people are like, well, what do we do? And yeah, I think a lot of that comes from that mental fortitude. I do think there are a lot of players who have that, but I think the impact of the mental development is underplayed.
Definitely.
And I think I don't know. Like for me, I just like I want to be real. Like I don't want to be that guy who's like, "Man, you're probably not going to play." Like cuz I hated those people. Like people would say that to me and I'd just be like, "Yeah, well, watch me." You know what I mean? Like just having someone tell you you can't do something is just naturally going to make you want to do it more. But like telling people in general that there's more to life, especially if you seriously want to play at a higher level, like there are things that you just need to do. Like you hear about these NBA players now on their podcast talking about just the mental hurdles that they have to overcome,
Mm-hmm.
and nobody talks about that in like high school or anything like that. It's like, man, I'm just trying to show out or whatever.
Yep.
But there's so much of that like the time that you're putting into it, the sacrifice, the isolation that you have to endure sometimes, like that's all just underrated. And so like I'm all for, yeah, if you want to go as far as you can, like do it, like but take care of what counts and don't just rely on your fancy athleticism. Like do you see any players now who are really serious about the gym?
That I've worked with.
Yeah.
Let me think. I've seen a handful.
Hmm.
A handful, I'd say. So I've probably worked with like hundreds, and a handful. I
Yeah.
can count on one hand.
Sheesh.
I mean, that's expected, you know.
But like how do you so would you say that then the thing that needs to change is just the life development?
Like their home environment. Is that what you mean?
I don't know if it's home environment because on one hand, like you have sports that are keeping kids out of trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Like it is the one thing that's keeping them from doing hood rat stuff, or whatever, or just falling off the deep end and not caring about anything. But on the other hand, it's like like if you really do want to take it to the next level, like I'm saying, like you have to take care of certain things. Like, is it about the coaches being real about that? You know?
I do think it's mostly on the coaches. I mean,
Mm,
you could argue it's about half and half because the kid has to be willing or interested,
right.
but I feel like it's largely on the coaches and how they choose to what's the word I'm looking for?
Develop.
Yeah, I guess develop or approach certain topics with their athletes. Um, like some coaches, I was at another high school for a week recently, and their football coach has this really cool development model for his athletes that he follows, and they promote a blue collar work ethic,
Hmm.
stuff like that, and literally every day though, or every week they'll have a certain principle that they want each person to apply for that week,
Hmm.
and so like they'll always have meetings about morals, ethics,
Mm-hmm.
how they help people this week, stuff like that. Not even worried about football. So they always do
Mm.
that first and then worry about football after.
Interesting.
And I thought that was really cool because 9 times out of 10, like they're not gonna play their sport after high school,
Right.
unfortunately. But that's just reality.
Yeah.
And so focus more on how they're gonna be as adults.
Yeah. Or even like, again, and going back to how I was saying, I don't think making it to the NBA is as big a deal as we make it, but having a career in the NBA, and partially because like you can make it to the NBA and get a bag, like the starting salary is like what, 950K or something like that.
Really?
Something like that, which seems crazy and like, okay, this will change your life forever, but you'd be amazed how many athletes like blow through that because they never had like a consistent career, and you might hear a name for a little bit, but then they kind of just disappear because they didn't make it. And then, you know, a couple years pass and they're a little bit better off than they were because they had no development skills or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
So like, yeah, even saying from the high school level, like, yeah, it like the reality is you probably won't play very far with your sport, but even if you do, especially if you do, these are things that you need to take care of. There's this mindset, like you were saying, just wins and losses and everything.
Yeah.
And I kind of understand that because I think it can bring a lot of positivity to like your school or whatever. But it's such a fickle thing to build off of.
It's really stupid because, like, high school coaches, you're not really on the hot seat for wins and losses. Like, high division college, you're on the hot seat for wins and losses. So it makes more sense for them to focus on that. And they have professionals take care of all the other stuff.
Right.
But high school, that's not really a time for that.
You know? Right. And I think bringing that then to what we do now is really important. Like, the perspective matters. Looking back, like, for me, I feel like it was all worth it. Even though, like, ultimately, most of the lofty goals that I had for myself weren't reached. Like, the development part that it played just in my life is invaluable. You know, especially under coaching of some of the people, like, freshman year, that coach I was telling you about. Just the things that I learned about life in that time. And just being real about, like, my situation really, really just helped me, you know. Give me discipline and all these other things.
Honestly, I'm thinking back of all the coaches I had. And I feel like the most memorable one was from 7th grade.
Daryl?
I guess Coach Daryl, Larry.
Yeah.
Bob.
Yo.
I feel like those were the most memorable for me. Maybe because that was when I first started playing, or I feel like they taught us more of the harsh realities.
Yes. That's for sure. They
didn't sugarcoat anything, especially Coach Larry.
Yo, facts.
Nothing. And I feel like that was really good for going forward in the future, you know?
Yeah.
But
set a precedent. It was tough. Well, yeah.
Like 7th grade, man. That's kind of wild.
Yeah. Thinking about it now, that is absolutely true. But it had to be done because there's so much nonsense that you can get wrapped up in.
Exactly.
Dang. Well, I think I have to end this because my friends are texting me. But this was good. We should continue this another time.
Word.
All right. Well, thanks for watching, everybody. Stay tuned for more episodes. Holla.
Ball is life, baby.